Hello everyone, Spinosaurus here. I was originally going to make my first YouTube video on a different discussion point, but since Lizard Wizard posted his video addressing problems with the warrior code and calling upon other people to make their own video responses, I decided I'd do that first and make the other video at a later date. I'd like to point out, first of all, that I've only recently reread the Warriors series and I'm still sort of floating about a power of 3, and I stopped reading at The Last Hope a couple of years back, so if anything I say contradicts something that happened in a later book, then that's because I haven't read that book yet. I haven't read a number of the super editions and novellas either, mostly because I didn't have the time or motivation to read them back when I was actively reading the series. But I should get around to reading those soon, and if anything in those books contradicts something that I say here, then I'll add that to description later on. So, as Lizard rightfully pointed out, the Warrior Code exists primarily to ensure the survival of the clans. Protecting your border and fighting to protect your clan, regardless of your friendships outside of it, are all fair rules. They encourage cats to fight for the clan they were born into, and thus ensure its long-term survival. In that respect, the Warrior Code's very simple, and there's very little room to misinterpret what most of the rules mean. I could go into more detail about the aspects of the Warrior Code and how I feel about it, but as a response to Lizard's videos, you're probably better off just watching his first, and I'll talk more about my feelings in a later video. And in this video, I'll just focus on the aspect of the code that I would personally adjust. So I don't think this rule should be removed, per se, or entirely adjusted, but I feel like it has some issues that weaken it as a rule. So the Warrior Code states that a cat cannot be made deputy without having mentored at least one apprentice. Don't get me wrong, by itself there's nothing inherently wrong with that rule. It makes perfect sense that a cat should have been a mentor before it becomes deputy. This means that it knows the ins and outs of the clan life and the Warrior Code to the point where it can effectively share that knowledge with a younger cat. This is understandable as a precursor to being second in command. My argument is that while this suggests a certain level of experience, I don't personally believe this is good enough as a requirement to measure the skills of a warrior to be a deputy. Just look at Brambleclaw. Regardless of whether or not an Omen leaf pool received is what ultimately led to his becoming deputy, no one can argue that he was qualified. And this is without him ever having had an apprentice. Time and time again, Brambleclaw proved himself to be worthy with his innate leadership ability and organizational skills. But at what point has a cat proved themselves? What other precursor could there possibly be? Having an apprentice is a much more definitive landmark than just the opinions of the cats around him. This is different in Brambleclaw's case. He definitely proved himself by leading the other cats on the initial journey to and from the Sundrown Place and again on the Great Journey, and further by filling in for Greystripe throughout the New Prophecy. It seems that by Twilight, most cats had the faith in Brambleclaw to be an effective deputy of ThunderClan in Greystripe's place. And I'm not about to propose there should be some kind of democracy about selecting new clan deputies. While that could definitely work, it's more that that's not really the clan way. Voting's for those capitalist tribe cats, what with their split roles and their mountains. Here in the clans, we believe in the power of socialism and giving our leaders total control over the course of our lives. Okay, but in all seriousness, there's been no real issue with the current system as it is, aside from some minor hiccups in judgment. There's no real need to change the system for selecting deputies on a fundamental level, just make some adjustments where qualification is concerned. My definitive proposal is that we no longer just have the one requirement for being eligible to be deputy of your clan, but rather a selection of requirements. Once a cat has met at least 2 of them, they are eligible to be deputy. Those requirements would be as follows. Have mentored at least one apprentice, same as already exists in the code. Arguably, this could be extended to 2 apprentices, or at the very least consider the apprenticeship on an individual level. I say this because cats like Greystripe are considered eligible for deputyship under the current ruling, despite having spent most of his time as a mentor sneaking around to see Silverstream instead of actually mentoring his apprentice. Have proved themselves an effective leader in a significant battle, quest, or otherwise. Brambleclaw did just that in leading the cats to the Sundrown Place, or even Fireheart and Greystripe's quest to bring back WindClan and Fire and Ice. Effective leader in this case just means that they managed to get everyone home in one piece, having, successfully completed whatever task they set out to do. The exception of Feathertail in Brambleclaw's case, but you can't exactly blame him for that one. Be at least 48 moons of age. Given that most cats complete their apprentice training by 12 moons, 3 further years of warrior experience should be more than enough to consolidate their knowledge of clan life and the warrior code. For non-clan-born cats, this would essentially stretch to spending at least 48 moons living in the clan. Originally, it seemed most cats didn't really live to see the age of 4, and some still don't. But now that we're seeing a lot of cats making it to 6 and 8 and even 10 without showing their age, this is a reasonable qualifier. Have participated in at least one major battle for their clan. A major battle in this case is basically anything that extends beyond a skirmish at clan borders. After all, what better way for a cat to prove their loyalty and devotion to their clan than defending them with their life? This doesn't include taking part in minor ways, such as acting as a messenger rather than fighting in the battle directly. Of course, a cat would not have to meet all of these requirements, only 2 of them at minimum. Arguably, any 2 of the aforementioned qualities would be more than enough to prove that a cat is capable of leading their clan. Not only that, but it would legitimize Brambleclaw's deputyship at the time it occurred. Having to fulfill 2 requirements is also vital, as many apprentices may meet the 4th qualifier, as apprentices are regularly taken into major battles. Apprentices took part in both battles against the Dark Forest and against BloodClan. But no one's going to suggest that a cat fresh out of apprenticeship is ready to be a deputy. Importantly, these qualities are objective rather than subjective. Point being, there's still nothing stopping a leader from selecting a problematic cat to be deputy, but it ensures the cat chosen undoubtedly has the qualities required to lead their clan. So what do you think? Feel free to argue with any points I've made, or suggest other points you would think would be better or replacement qualifiers for becoming clan deputy. I'm interested to hear what everyone has to say.